now that you're in the close step, there are keys here, and it's applying the personality type again, because again, not the end of the world, but you need to apply that. You need to know what you're going to do for that particular person. You need to prepare them for the close, and then you need to apply the word tracks. So apply the personality type, again, bringing forward what you've learned about this contact earlier on, bring this to the close step. Prepare them for the close. With reds and blues, after small talk, again, do not be the first person to say the first word. Now, I covered this in the follow-up because it could have happened in the follow-up step. But again, I'm addressing this here again because if you're going into the close step again, you want to understand what you're doing with the contact. So again, same stuff. After the small talk, do not be the first person to say the first word. Let them talk first. Listen to what they have to say and how they're going to say it. What do they need to know right now? And really where the rubber meets the road, and this is really true with any personality type, but you got a red or blue here. You want to listen to what they want to know. You want to ask clarifying questions. You want to answer those questions. Maybe this is where a three-way call with somebody in your team may be appropriate. The point is, you're in the close step, and it is time now to move this person forward, either on the company, product, or service, depending on its business or customer. And so, if you're having trouble here, this is where you need to also take the asking questions part of our communication training. Because the reason why people don't move forward is because they have unanswered questions in their mind and they're not always going to throw it out there. Now, I'd like to think reds and blues are pretty direct, and they tend to be, but that's not always the case. All contacts at times will take their time in telling you what's really going on and why they're not moving forward. So if you're not getting people to the point where they say, what's next, what's the next step, or what do we do now, you probably need to get good at asking questions to dig. Because a lot of people joke when I'm closing people, they'll say, yeah, Jason, I've heard you talk to contacts before, and it's like they close themselves. And I'm like, what do you mean? Well, they ask you, what's next, or what's the next step, or what do we do now? It's like they're asking you, okay, we're going to do this or not? I'm like, yeah, because I've asked all the right questions. I've filtered out everything that they have in their mind as far as concerns or questions. I've addressed them. And the next logical thing after that awkward silence after each question is, okay, well, what do we do now? And that's my opportunity to move forward. So if you're not getting this, this is because you need to take the asking questions part of our training. You need to get better at that so you can dig and figure out what's not been uncovered. So again, just like in the follow-up, same close philosophy, but ask them, what are your remaining questions? Why do I say this now? Because as I said, we're trying to give greens and yellows space, and we've had in this whole process. That said, remember I talked about the balance. You really need to balance this, giving them space with moving them forward. And so I usually ask this group, what are your remaining questions? And notice the remaining thing is important, because what that does is that lets them know, okay, I'm kind of ready to move you forward. I've been patient with you. I've been helpful, yellow. I've been patient, green. Let's start moving in the direction of getting a decision. Answer all of their questions until they're asking you closing questions. What's next? What do we do now? Those sort of things. And again, what I said on the last slide, which is, hey, if you're not getting these closing questions, you probably need to work on asking questions, particularly with this group, because these are the people that really hold inside what's stopping them from moving forward, either on your company, product, or service. So now, once they're ready to move forward on the close step, okay, now this is where they ask a closing question. Now you need to apply the word tracks. Key number 3. So business. The first thing we need to do is get you set up and enrolled in your company. In order to do that, we'll need all the contact details, full name, shipping and billing address. If they are different, a lot of times people have different, I know I do. Your social security number for tax purposes so your company can report the income to the IRS. Now, there may be some other details that you need in your company. This is what my company needs. If you're in a different country, like in Canada, it's called a social insurance number. Other parts of Asia, they have different IDs. You get the idea. It's just substitute whatever the appropriate tax collection agency, whatever the number or information you need. But basically the keys, you want to key is the first thing we need to do is get you set up and enrolled in whatever your company name is. And then tell them what you need. You need to be very direct so they know. And then the next most important part is giving them a mental picture of where they're going to go. In other words, I'm letting them know now, I am going to collect what I need from you to get you started. And this is where the buying fear kicks in. So how do I get over that? I focus on the next thing. Once we get that set up, we need to set you up in our training program. Now, this is where you need to adapt. In your team, in your company, you need to give them a short description of your training program process. I have my own team. My company does their own training thing. My description in my own team is even different from the rest of the company that I'm in because I have a very specific training program for my own team. And so I describe that in detail for them. Why do I do that? Because I'm letting them know now, hey, I'm going to get your credit card and all your contact details, your social security number for tax purposes, so they can report your income to the IRS. Getting them all focused on that, but then I'm taking their focus on you're about ready to buy something and before buyer's remorse kicks in, because people are just like that when they're buying something. They get that jittery feeling, particularly the greens and the yellows. You want to focus on what's coming next. After we get you started, we're going to take care of you. That's the message you're doing. Without saying that, that's what you're doing when you start talking about your training program. Now, obviously, I can't tell you what you would say here because I don't know your training program. And I got to tell you, you better have one, because this is one of the reasons why a lot of people can't close people is they get them right up to this point and they really don't have anything to say to the contact they're talking to. So the contact wonders, but particularly if they've done MLM before, gosh, I had such a bad experience last time. I don't really know. Am I just going to buy into this business, or am I going to buy this product? I'm never going to hear from you again. Like, people want support. They want help. And one of the reasons why I've been doing this for 10 years and making a full-time income for 8, a very good income, is because I have training and I support and take care of people. And so I want to make sure that I put the focus on this closing script on that. And then probably the most important part of this, are you ready to get started? I do not know how many people are afraid to ask this. It's so funny to me. But if you're not, if you can't ask, you ready to get started, it's going to be real hard for you to close people. This is your way of letting them know, are you ready to get started? Now, understand, this is where the answering questions course could be very critical for you. And by the way, the answering questions course that we have as a part of this communication training, it might be necessary in the follow-up step, but it's essential here, because when you ask somebody to get started on the business side, this is where a lot of the concerns and questions come up that maybe you didn't have before. So if you didn't do a really good job of asking questions and weeding things out in the follow-up or in the close before you executed this script, you're going to get it here. So just understand, if you're having trouble at this point, people start firing a lot of questions at you and you don't know how to answer them. I obviously can't help you with your own company or your own product or service, but I can give you some basic things on the MLM business model in general that people need to know. For a customer, what I say is the first thing we need to do is get you set up and enrolled as a customer in Company. In order to do that, we'll need some contact details from you, like your name, shipping and billing address if you're different. That's it. Pretty simple. You want to get that set up? That's all I ask people. Because customers are simple. They just want to know what needs to happen. And then of course, in my own company, we have like support systems from the company. I tell them like, you can change your order, you can do different things. You can do. I just tell them what your company probably has the same type of thing, and you have some features and things you might want to share. The point is just make sure your customer knows you're going to take care of them. You're going to let them know what's going on. You're going to follow up with them. People want to be taken care of in this day and age. It's about relationships. So that's the focus here. And again, if you get any questions or concerns that you didn't handle in the follow-up, this is where you're going to get them. And I can't help you a whole lot on how to answer questions or concerns in this area. Obviously when you learn the general asking questions stuff from us, you're going to know how to ask questions and dig down to find out what their concerns are about your product or service that you may need to address. I obviously can't teach you that because I don't know your company or product or service, but the general thing is understanding what are their concerns or questions and determining that here, and a lot of times you're going to get that from them at this point.